On today's edition of the show, we're going to discuss how important it is for the Florida Panthers to clinch the series against the Toronto Maple Leafs in game 4 of the second round series. A Panthers prospect has officially signed his entry level deal. And we asked the question, has Paul Maurice redeemed himself with the start that the Florida Panthers had to where they are right now?
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this May 10th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez. You can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers, as well as Instagram as well at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and come get your daily Florida Panthers fix. So, Cats fans, it's a game day. And with this series starting last Tuesday and multiple days off for between games 2 and 3, and then once again in between games 3 and 4, the Florida Panthers have an opportunity to close out this series tonight, 7 p.m. at FLA Live Arena. The game will be broadcasted on ESPN. Big opportunity ahead for the Florida Panthers, but it is Wednesday, which means it is a Winans Wednesday edition of the show, which means Jacob Winans is officially back. Jacob, welcome back to Locked On Panthers.
Thanks for having me. This could be a really, really big day for not just the Panthers, but the whole South Florida sports region. With the Panthers and Heat both having a chance to advance, I am so excited for what we have just about 24 hours from now, from the time we're recording. I'm pumped.
Yeah, and Ethan Skolnick of 5 Reasons Sports tweeted that these two teams have a chance to do it, and both as ace seeds, obviously. But it's crazy with the gaps between games 2 and 3, and then 3 and 4. You know, the last time you were on, only 2 games have been played since game 1. So a lot of time to think as well. I want you to just give you the floor for a little bit and just give your thoughts on the Florida Panthers coming out to a 3-0 lead as we stand right now.
Yeah, well, if you had told me that the Panthers would have taken a 3-0 series lead, I would have thought you were crazy. And if I would have told you that, I definitely would have been lying. I had no idea they would come out this hot in this series, and I don't think anyone really did. But we talked about it earlier and kind of off air in our group chat. But I feel like ever since the Panthers went down 3-1 in Boston against Boston, the pressure was just completely lifted off this team, and they've just been playing. It's night and day what they've looked like since then. I think when they were down 3-1, they were able to just completely open up their game, and they're like, you know what? If we're going to go down, we're going to go down swinging. We're going to give it our best shot. And they gave it their best shot for 3 games in a row, and they happened to win all 3. And now here we are. And I think they've developed a bit of a clutch gene. I think they've started to get production up and down the lineup. We finally found some line combinations that are really clicking. Nick Cousins deserves a ton of credit for sliding into the top 6, which is allowing that third line to stay together. It seems like they found the secret sauce at the right time. Sergei Bobrovsky has been huge. He's found his Vezina caliber fountain of youth a little bit, and everything's just kind of coming together at the right time. And they've had a little bit of luck on their side. But if you look at game 3, you saw really perfect Florida Panthers hockey. I mean, the problem that's plagued them all year, discipline, no penalties. They come out, they get an overtime win. Everybody contributes. They showed up in clutch moments. They came back from 2 different deficits. I mean, we can't take this for granted. This is a hell of a ride, and they're playing some incredible hockey to watch right now. I really can't say enough good things about what we're seeing on the ice.
Yeah, I complain neither, and of course, like I said after game 3, and then even with our episode with Doug Plagans yesterday, you have one game, 4 opportunities to win one game. So a signing happened for the Florida Panthers the other day, along with players joining the team, with the Charlotte Checkers obviously being eliminated after their second round series against the Hershey Bears. Mackie Samoskevich, after signing a PTO with the Charlotte Checkers, joined them on their playoff run. Officially signed his entry level contract, and we were wondering, is it going to be for this year? Is it going to be for next year? It took a few hours for us to find out the actual year that it starts, but George Richards of Florida Hockey Now reported that it was going to be this year, starting this year, to burn that year, and then 2 years after that he'll be closer to becoming an RFA. And the other Panthers to join the playoff roster: Connor Bunneman, Lucas Carlson, Grigori Denisenko, goalie Evan Fitzpatrick, Patrick Giles, Matt Gutsta, Alexei Heponiemi, Matt Kierstead, Santu Kinnunen, John Lugvid, and Kale Shalin. Doubt that any of those guys will be joining in the Panthers unless there's like an injury situation. But great to see that Mackie has signed his ELC. But I think it's highly unlikely that he plays. He's likely going to start in Charlotte next year. I think if there's players who are gonna be filling in, I think you're going to see a Lucas Carlson or Grigori Denisenko there. Any players you see outside of Carlson and Denisenko playing in case due to injury?
Those are really the main ones. I think I would go maybe one spot deeper. I think you're probably going to have 2 forwards deep and then 2 defensemen deep as far as guys who could realistically play. So I think you see Lucas Carlson. If there's an injury, he'd probably be the guy. And then if we get some really horrible luck and have multiple guys out for whatever reason, God forbid it, I think Matt Kierstead could get a look.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as forwards go, Grigori Denisenko, of course, the first forward who would get a crack. And then maybe behind him, Alexei Heponiemi, a guy who's had some NHL experience, has a little bit of a scoring touch. He could fill in a pinch, but I don't expect most of those guys to play. Key thing is practice bodies, which is huge. And then of course, having these guys officially on the roster for a playoff run, it gives everybody a chance to kind of be a part of the ride. Everyone has a chance to see what this is about, and I think that's really good for the young players to be included in that, even if just on paper. It's good for young players to be a part of that on any kind of deep playoff run. You can take lessons from anything as a young player, and I think that's good for them. But honestly, that news kind of didn't really resonate that much with me when it came out. We're obviously thinking about the game 4 we have and Mackie's deal. I don't think we'll see him play right now, but again, it's great for him. He played well in Charlotte. I will definitely say that. His distributing, his puck handling, his passing. He put up a ton of assists in the few games he had down there, produced in the playoffs. He was yet to get his first career professional goal, but that's coming, and I think it's good for him. We finally got our college guys locked up, so the future looks bright as well as the present, and I think it's a good time to be a Panthers fan. We just got to get this one more win, and yeah, that's on my mind. That's on your mind. That's on everybody's mind. We got to finish this series and slam the door.
Yeah, and Mackie Samoskevich, the last first-round pick that the Florida Panthers will have for a while until 2026. So it's definitely one to be excited about, but of course one that this team has to covet for its future because of the lack of assets that they do in fact have. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2. We're going to discuss the state of the Florida Panthers coaching, which we asked this question the other day after the game 2 win over the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we asked, has Paul Maurice redeemed himself? We are going to answer that next and get Jacob's opinions as well. here in the next segment here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But first, we're going to tell you all about Indeed. And Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed has a powerful hiring platform that could help you do it all. We streamline hiring with its powerful tools that help you find matched candidates. Even better, Indeed is the only job site where you can only pay for applications to meet your must-have requirements. Indeed is an unbelievable hiring platform, delivering 4 times more than other jobs and sites combined, according to Talent Nest 2019. Start hiring now with $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Segment number 2 here on this Winans Wednesday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Jacob Winans is here for another edition of the show. And Jacob, it's been an awesome ride, obviously, for where the Florida Panthers are, and as we as viewers of this team, seeing where they've gone. Of course, we talk a whole bunch of where they were in January, and I every single time the Florida Panthers win, of course, I'm gonna keep pushing the whole playoff style hockey, or giving the credit to the coaching when it's needed, and of course to the players, and of course, I tweeted out after the game 2 win for the Panthers. I said, do you guys still want Paul Maurice fired? And that's a lot of that was to a lot of the fan base, which was screaming for it at the beginning. And I had a reply, which I quote tweeted. This person said, he redeemed himself, in my opinion. And I quote tweeted it saying, did Maurice actually redeem himself, or did the fan base lack patience when it came to this? And I asked the question, and my goodness, I was not expecting 70 plus replies on this Twitter post. And I want to also thank you, everyone who follows the show account page as well, who have been interacting with me lately, and as well on the Instagram front. And some people have said both. Some people said yes and no. Some people have said no. Some people have said one. Some have said the other. My answer is the latter. When it comes to that question, and the process that you have to go through when going through a grind of a season, changing it up, the style, the personnel as well, and we're seeing in this playoffs how the Panthers should play versus how they shouldn't. Like we talked about last year, how they were just getting their chances off the rush, and then once that's eliminated, what happened to the Panthers? Their scoring punch was eliminated, and look what happened. Look what's happening now. They're getting chances on broken plays on the forecheck, which is something we've been hammering over the last few weeks on their 6-game postseason winning streak. And I think that even if the Panthers didn't make the playoffs, number one, Maurice would still be here, and number two, the redemption for him would be starting next year. So even then, I don't think it's him redeeming himself. And you and I have different opinions on it. I know you've been very vocal on the coaching in the season, but I want to give you an opportunity to as well give your answer on how you feel about whether he's redeemed himself, or a lack of patience that happened throughout the season for a lot of fans.
Yeah, so for me, obviously, I've been pretty vocal about Paul Maurice and how a lot of things just did not seem to be working throughout the season. I wasn't a big fan of the way he coached, especially the first half of the year, and just some of the mistakes that we kept seeing. It seemed repetitive, and it seemed like there were no adjustments, and that's what led to a lot of frustration, not just for me, but for a lot of the fan base. But I think I want to start at the very top of what you said, and talking about crediting the coaching staff for the Panthers' playoff success. I think it first goes a step beyond that. And I think Bill Zito, the general manager, deserves a ton of credit
Mhm.
because he very, very, very easily could have pulled the plug on this leading up to the trade deadline. And he had such belief in this coaching staff and this team. And he doubled down when at a time when Panthers fans were saying Paul Maurice is not the guy. He needs to be fired. This team, we need to trade pieces, recoup draft picks. He doubled down and said, Paul Maurice is the guy that I believe in to lead us to a Stanley Cup. He doubled down and said, I believe in this team, and we're not trading any of them away. We don't feel like we need to add to them right now. This is our team. This is what we're rolling with, win or lose. And those bets paid off, both of them. Regardless of what happens the rest of this series or the rest of the playoffs after this series, should the Panthers advance, it paid off in a much better way than we expected for this year. This is a year that's considered a gap year, a down year, because of some salary cap constraints. The Panthers were not expected to do what they're doing right now. So it starts there. But Paul Maurice, I think I'm going to give you kind of a cheap answer, but I have a reason for it. I think both are true at the same time. I think he definitely redeemed himself heading into the playoffs with his willingness to try new line combinations and adjust the playing style to fit those line combinations. It wasn't something that we saw as much throughout the year. We saw an extended stretch, excuse me, an extended stretch of Barkov, Lundell, and Reinhart when it wasn't working.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And he stuck with that too long. We just saw a lot of forced combinations, a lot of forced pairings that the results weren't there. And heading into the playoffs, he made some changes that paid off in a big way. And I think that is a little bit of redemption there for him. We've seen special teams come around, and the coaching staff, not just Paul Maurice, but the entire coaching staff running special teams, they've redeemed themselves in the playoffs because the power play has connected at big times, and the penalty kill, while it hasn't been great, it has come through in moments where they've needed it. So there is an element of redemption for the coaching staff and for Paul Maurice where that's concerned. It's definitely where we lacked patience was the overall playoff style. Throughout the season, he hammered this, and if you read, I'm not sure if you did or not, but Pierre LeBrun from The Athletic did a feature today on Sasha Barkov, and Barkov talks in that article about how Paul Maurice's style, it's something they can repeat. It's something that they don't have to leave a whole lot of room for what if. It's something that they can repeat game after game after game, whether they get the win or not. It's something that they're able to just do on a nightly basis. And throughout the season, it didn't always get results. The Panthers statistically were one of the unluckiest teams in the NHL. And when you're having that bad luck, at some point we get frustrated because we're like, this is not working. We might be unlucky, but you have to change something to get your own luck. And Paul Maurice didn't do that. He hammered this system into the players, and they barely scraped into the playoffs doing it. But now you're seeing it pay off because we're in the playoffs now, where doing the same thing repetitively every single game, hammering that same system, doing the same thing shift after shift after shift, game after game, it's getting results, and you're seeing it consistently building. So I think it was a dangerous way to do things, to barely scrape into the playoffs. But now that they're in and everyone starts 0-0, you're seeing the results coming at just the right time. So we definitely lacked patience, but I will say we lacked patience with good reason. And now we're enjoying the rewards because it is paying off, and credit is due to Paul Maurice for sticking with what he believed would work, because it is now working, and we have to give him props for that.
Yeah, and you also got to think about the mental reset that comes with when the playoffs start. And even for me as a viewer, it takes me at least 2 games to get into that playoff mode. It's like, okay, these game, you got to remind yourself that it's a different mode that these players are in, because we're so used to that 6+ months of just of the regular season hockey. And of course, not the playing field isn't always the same game in and game out throughout those 82 games in those 6 months as well. And of course, we all know what happened in game, I think it was April 9th, the off day that they had, where the Pittsburgh Penguins lose to the Chicago Blackhawks with which Chicago gets the number 1 overall pick. For Panther fans, we are congratulating the Panthers, the Blackhawks on getting the number 1 overall pick. And just from a Panthers perspective, we are at least I am saying, okay, you helped the Panthers get in. Congratulations. But of course, the other off the ice issues for the Chicago Blackhawks, not a good story as far as how they've conducted themselves off the ice. But as far as the Florida Panthers and how they've continued to have their backs against the wall and still continuing to make each point matter when getting in, and then it's the fact of getting in and then having that reset, and then hey, it all is everyone's starting fresh right here, and look, they're at this position, and with the experience factor of Paul Maurice, thankfully for them, they're 1 win away from getting and advancing to the next round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to discuss how important it is for the Florida Panthers to win Game 4 and some of the lineup changes for the Toronto Maple Leafs on the other side of things. We're going to discuss that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But first, we're going to tell you all about Game Time. And buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easiest way to buy tickets to sporting events, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you'll have. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive deals on football, basketball, hockey, concerts, theater, and more. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And if you want to do that for the Florida Panthers versus Toronto Maple Leafs game on Wednesday night for Game 4 for a chance to clinch their spot in to the Eastern Conference Final, you can do that on the Game Time app. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you'll never have to dig through your email. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Segment number 3 here on this Winans Wednesday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Jacob Winans is back to discuss this upcoming game for the Florida Panthers against the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's game day, Jacob. And before we discuss the game, Sasha Barkov has been nominated for the King Clancy Award for leadership on and off the ice. And we know Sasha Barkov's work with the Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital. So congratulations to Sasha Barkov for being the Florida Panthers nominee for the King Clancy Award. And the lineup for, at least in Maple Leafs practice today, here's how it looked for the Leafs. Jan Kruk is back with Matthews and Marner. Kerfoot is with Tavares and Nylander. They are Sam Lafferty is back with in practice as far as the 12 forwards, and it looks like that Mark Giordano is the 7th defenseman for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, and Justin Hall, who was on the ice for 2 goals against for the Toronto Maple Leafs, is on the second pairing with TJ Brody. And of course, I was tweeting from the Locked On account saying, "Keep playing Justin Hall, Sheldon. Keep playing him." But it doesn't look like that Ilya Samsonov is going to be recovering enough from his injury in order for him to play. So it looks like it's going to be Joseph Woll and Matt Murray, and with Matt Murray, of course, having the experience of winning 2 Stanley Cups and all, he's coming in. He'll be coming in dry and off an injury, and he's had some injury struggles in the last few years, even prior to being traded to Ottawa and then Ottawa to Toronto. But the Panthers are looking to face Joseph Woll again, and man, what an opportunity for the Florida Panthers to hopefully finish off this series on Wednesday night. I got to ask you, how important it is it to close it out Wednesday night?
It is of extreme importance. Right now, the Panthers have to smell blood in the water, and they need I mean, for lack of a better term, don't play with your food. They need to get it done now, because if you start playing the hypotheticals, you lose this game. Now you head back to Toronto. That's a long flight, and you play 2 nights after, and you're dealing with a hostile crowd again, a crowd that's starting to believe again. And then should you lose that, now you're coming home. All the pressure is back on you to win a game at home and try to avoid a game 7. So it's important to get it done now. And then, of course, if Joseph Woll is going to be in net, you can't let him get a win and build any kind of belief. We know how dangerous that can be. That the Panthers have been on the other side of these situations, where a couple years ago we're playing Tampa. It looks like we're dead in the water. Spencer Knight comes in, plays an absolutely brilliant game, and the Panthers got a lot of life from that, and they extended that series and went back to Tampa and had a chance to force a game 7 if they had won that game. So it can happen. It's dangerous. Hope is a dangerous thing to give a team, and the Panthers can't allow it. And then the goalie situation is the biggest red flag right now for Toronto. Not that the Panthers have struggled against Samsonov. This would be 2 years in a row that they've gotten the better of him. But Matt Murray is a guy who has a lot of playoff experience. He's not going to play coming off of yet another concussion, which it's just horrible to deal with. I feel horrible for him and for Samsonov with his injury. But right now, the Panthers have to capitalize. You can't give this team any belief. You've kept the core 4 at bay. They haven't scored any goals yet. All it takes is for one of those guys to get hot. And then if 2 of those guys get hot, now we're in trouble. And if 3 or 4 of those guys get hot, we could be in for a shootout. So you don't want to let that happen. Another disciplined game, another game where they play the same forechecking style, the in-your-face style, get a lot of shots on Woll. I can't stress that enough. Shoot everything at him. I know he's a great young goalie, but this is a situation he's never been in, facing elimination in the NHL. Shoot everything at him. And then, of course, discipline. Stay out of the box. Don't give their power play anything. And the Panthers should be in good shape. But you said it earlier, and I think this is a good thing to touch on. It seems like the Leafs are in panic mode a little bit. Throw everything they can at the situation and see what happens. We'll see if they go 12-6 or 11-7. Either way, Hall on the second pair and Giordano potentially scratched doesn't make a ton of sense to me. He was absolutely brutal in the last game. But hey, if that's what they want to go with, then it's on the Panthers to capitalize. That's a second pair that if that's the lineup they go with, the Panthers can really take advantage of that. So it almost doesn't really matter what lines or pairs they put out there, who's in net. Just get the job done. This is the playoffs now. It doesn't. We could sit here and break down the lineup all day, but at the end of the day, our guys have to beat their guys, whoever's in uniform, and go get the job done. I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully that we see a handshake line later tonight, and a special props to Nola Chari, former Panther. Hate to send a former Panther home, but that's what we're looking for tonight. So.
Yeah, go get you someone who loves you the way Sheldon Keefe loves Justin Hall. Like, you guys out there,
undying loyalty. If you need someone loyal, Sheldon Keefe, Justin Hall.
So yeah, so go get you that love that you guys deserve. But yeah, and with this lineup for the Toronto Maple Leafs, you said it best. The Panthers, they just need to stick to what has got them here, and they if they haven't been intimidated from the Boston series and in even the first 3 games, they're not going to be intimidated now. And even Matthew Tkachuk, there's a quote that I saw from Bleacher Report that they said there's no pressure on them. For me, even if they do lose on Wednesday, I'm still not gonna be nervous for the Florida Panthers. Even if this does go back to a game 5, you like I said, you have 4 opportunities to win 1 game for this Panthers team, and it's right there in front of them. You don't want to go back to Scotiabank Arena, even though you've already won 2. So you You want to end it, and more importantly, sometime in a if you're gonna try to win a Stanley Cup, you're gonna have to need to get that extended rest. I don't want to look too far ahead, but in the series across the Eastern Conference, Carolina is winning right now in going into the second intermission 6-1 over the New Jersey Devils. No guarantee that will be extended to 7 games neither, but you also want to get a kickstart on rest as well, even though the New Jersey Devils have an opportunity in game 5 to extend it to a game 6 as well. So you want to get a little bit of rest, recover the body as well, and of course get ready for that next round. And that's why it's so important to get that clinching game in game 4. But Jake,
especially for the Panthers in their case, where they've been playing playoff hockey much longer than the rest of these teams have. They had weeks of do or die playoff games leading into the playoffs, so that extended rest is huge. But yeah, definitely just get the job done. I don't care how it's done, just get it done, and be cognizant of the fact that the Bruins thought they had the Panthers beat, and the Panthers came back. So the Panthers can't let anyone have that kind of life.
Exactly. That's actually a great way. That's actually a great way to end the show. And on that quote, just don't give them any opportunity and put a stranglehold on the series as well, and officially put the dagger into the series. But Jacob, not only do I want to thank you for joining me on this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, but I'm also really looking forward to watching this game with you in person tomorrow night, as we will be watching this and reacting live to whatever happens in game 4 between the Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So tell everybody where they can follow you online.
Definitely. You can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Winans 8. I'll be super active there talking Panthers and a little bit of Miami Heat for sure. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. We've got 2 games to keep an eye on. So this should be a fun day.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Jacob, and I will see you next week, my friend.
Looking forward to it. Thanks.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Every dayers, make sure you come back on tomorrow's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. We'll be breaking down Game 4, between the Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Hopefully we are talking about the Florida Panthers clinching their spot in the Eastern Conference Final. So I'm Armando Velez with Jacob Winans, and you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.